Well, hello, and we're going to continue in John. We did all of verses 1 and 2, or 2 sort of done. We're going to read from 2 to 5. We'll read verse 2 because it's related to the other verses. So let's just read them first of all. John chapter 1, verses 2 to 5. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through him, and without him was not anything that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. Most of the rest of the gospel is essentially about the humanity of Jesus. Obviously, it's about Jesus when he was here on earth. So it kind of emphasizes his humanity. But Jesus is both God and man, fully God, fully man. And these verses are stressing the deity of Jesus. First of all, we read, he was in the beginning with God. Sometimes people present things as though God looked and found, oh, there's a good man. Someone's actually doing things right for once, I'll choose him. That's complete and utter nonsense. Jesus was with God from the beginning. He wasn't created. There wasn't a time when he didn't exist. He was with God from the beginning. And as it said in the bit we talked about last time, he was God and is God. He is eternally the Son of God. And it is God who has come to save us. We've not been saved by a mere man. He was obviously fully human, but also fully God. We've not been saved, not because just a man or a woman accomplished some great feat, but because God became man and did all the things that we read about in the Gospels, because the eternal Son of God came to save us. And the one who came to save us created absolutely everything. As it says in verse 3, all things were made through him. Without him, there is nothing that wasn't made. Various heresies and false religions like Mormonism will in some way demean Jesus, demote Jesus, turn him into a created being, the first of all things that were created. That's not true. Jesus is eternal, and all things, everything, seen and unseen, was created through him. And it says he is the source of life. The life was in him. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. If we want life, we need to know Jesus. Adam and Eve rebelled against God, and God said, if you do that, you will die. And they did. Obviously, they still existed for a long time after that. But they were spiritually dead. Life goes. We only become fully alive when we know Jesus. And that life comes from Jesus. He'll talk about that. We'll read more about that as we go through the Gospels, through this Gospel. And the good news of all this is it's God, the Creator, who has come to save us. It is God himself, Jesus himself, who is the source of life. So you might sometimes look at yourself or look at others and think the situation is hopeless. If you're looking for yourself to save you, it would be hopeless. If you were looking for some man or woman to save you, it would be hopeless. But it's the Son of God who comes to save you. So the situation is never hopeless. No one is beyond the redemption by God. And then the last verse says, the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. And that last bit can alternatively be translated, the darkness has not understood it. Now, it's been said that darkness is not the opposite of light, it is the absence of light. And we see the effects and reality of that in the West. Western society as a whole is abandoning all its Christian foundations. And we see the effects. Perhaps they're most obvious in the decline in sexual morals and all the transgender stuff. But we see it everywhere. You look at politics. I suppose it's always been a mess with politics, but it must be worse. It's worse than it's ever been. And perhaps in the US presidential election, the last one in 2020, and you had the choice between Trump and Biden. They couldn't find anyone better. Because as the light of Christ is taken away, darkness is what's there instead. So we see the depressing effects. But there's hope as well. Because God sends light into darkness. So if there's darkness in your life, God sends light into your darkness. In society, whether we're talking society as a whole or we're talking about individuals, there is always hope. Because our God is a God who sends light into darkness. And the darkness has not overcome it. Darkness does not defeat the light. When the light comes in, the darkness is gone. So we should have hope, because our God is a God. His purposes are salvation. His plans are plans for salvation. He sends light into the darkness. So if our society is getting darker, which it is, we should not lose hope, because our God sends light into darkness. As I said, it can also be translated, the darkness has not understood it. So when the darkness speaks, we don't need to be afraid. And we shouldn't be surprised if it talks a load of nonsense. Satan thought he was winning when he got Jesus on the cross. The Jewish religious authorities thought they were winning when they had Jesus condemned to death. They couldn't have been more wrong. It was the source of their defeat. So when we hear the darkness speaking through the media, through politicians or whatever, we don't need to be afraid. And we should have hope, because God sends light into darkness and the darkness has not overcome it. Amen.